I want to come and talk to you today about my experience of leading my dad's funeral and some of the pointers that I think are really helpful to share with you if you're considering doing this as well. If you're not and you think, gosh, I'd never be able to do that for a loved one, then I'd really invite you to question that, because you absolutely can. You absolutely can. And here's a few things that can help you get to that place, particularly in your head. And that's the first thing, really, is that I decided that I could. It seems impossible, doesn't it? Just like when we're losing someone, it seems impossible that the world is going to keep spinning and that we're going to cope and we're going to manage, and yet we do. And why is that? Because because it's what's needed, but also because we're determined. Yeah, we're determined to show up and to lead to the best of our ability in those moments. So yeah, I had absolute conviction that I was the right person to do it and that I could. And really, it was because I didn't want to look back and regret not taking it on, because I'd seen, I've been to a few funerals over the years, and this isn't knocking like the other people who'd kind of run them for our family, or other people whose funerals I've been to, but they just weren't very personal, because the person doesn't know, like, they don't know them, and so sometimes there's like little mistakes in there, like they use the whole person's name because they don't realize that's like not the name that gets used by friends and family, that sort of thing. So I just never particularly liked the ones I've been to, and I thought there's absolutely no way someone is doing that for my dad. I felt very protective. It was almost like I couldn't stop him dying. I couldn't protect him from that, and I couldn't protect my family from all of this other stuff that we were going through. But what I could do is protect that space, and I knew that I could hold it. And of course, like, I did have the skill sets to do it. And there's this really interesting thing that I've called domain-specific skills blindness. I often see with other leaders. So I had a whole load of skills and experiences outside of leading a funeral, which I'd never done before. I read like a little bit out of my uncles, and that was it. But often I see with leaders that you're able to do something, but just in a particular context, and then you go to another one and the same transferable skills apply, but because it's like a different situation, or perhaps like this one, it's more emotionally charged, you kind of assume that you can't do it when you totally can. And so the number one thing I knew I needed to be able to do was to regulate my nervous system, because that's the I can't. And I'd noticed this, well, years ago, but particularly around my dad, like after he'd had his cancer diagnosis and as things were getting worse, I'd go out for a walk on my own, and this little voice would say, I can't do this. Like, I don't know how to do this. I can't do this. And as soon as I heard that story in my mind, my body would contract, my breathing would get shallow, just chest breathe. And that's when I would start panicking and have all these kind of, I'd tear up and all of that. But it was the story and then its impact on my body and my breathing that would then dysregulate my nervous system. So what I really focused on was unhooking from that I can't story, and also noticing what was going on in my breathing, and really working with that to keep my nervous system as regulated as possible. And I'd done that for years, through working in highly stressful jobs and other difficult situations, breakups, betrayals, other bereavements in my life. I knew how to work with my nervous system. So it was a different context, but the skills are the same. Your body does the same thing when it's going through grief or it's anxious or whatever. And so if you know how to work with that in other situations, then you can certainly do that leading the funeral for a loved one. Other skills that I knew I had were being able to kind of lead and kind of speak from a kind of depth in my experience and practice as a Buddhist, although it wasn't a Buddhist funeral. I knew I could speak from that place to a crowd about things that were kind of highly emotive, because I'd been doing that for years already within my Buddhist order, from talks about why I'm a Buddhist that were emotional, all the way through to talking about ordination and leading retreats and that sort of thing. And fundamentally, a funeral is a ritual, and I'd led loads of rituals over the years. I'd say that's one of my kind of key skill sets, particularly as a Buddhist leader, is being able to lead very powerful rituals and help people tap into something that I'm trying to tap into as well. So it's like, oh, well, I've done rituals, I've led retreats with over 100 people on them. Like, this is fine, like I can do this. And there's a particular ritual called a puja that I'd written, which really comes from a very tricky place in my life a few years ago. And I'd already done that a couple of times at Buddhafield Festival during the summer. And again, it's kind of really taking people into this kind of particular kind of emotional world that I was in. So I knew I could do that. I thought, well, okay, this is just, it's just like that on steroids, so I'll be all right. So yeah, this sense of like I can, and also having that rooted in actual experiences and skill sets was really, really important. Like I knew how to write speeches and all of that. So, if you're a leader, like you'll have done this too. Yeah, you'll have had to give presentations when your nervous system is feeling dysregulated. You know how to breathe when you're under pressure and you're breathing's getting all shallow and you need to stay calm, whatever. You're used to doing that. You're used to doing that in relation to other people in a public space. I'm sure of that. So of course you can apply it. You just need to see that it's the same skills, but just a different domain that you can apply them to. The other thing that really helped is that I, in the run up, particularly the last few days before his funeral, at night, I think I was staying at my stepmom's at the time. At night before I'd go to bed, I'd be sat up in bed and I'd be imagining what it would be like to be at that front and be at the front of that room, and also what it'd feel like walking in front of Dad's coffin. Oh God, even just saying that is like fucking hell, So I imagined that. So the imagination is very powerful, because when you can actually kind of get into it, not just have this abstract idea of it, but really imagine yourself fully there. Again, it's like I could notice what would happen in my body, like even as I can now, of having actually done it. It's like I can imagine what that feels like in my body. I can feel my heart going a little bit more. I can feel myself tensing. I can feel, because it comes up and restricts in your throat. We tense from the bottom of our bodies upwards, yeah. So we tense from the root, from the pelvic floor up, and then that's why people get kind of these shrill voices often. They go a bit squeaky. You get a dry throat. So notice how it tenses up here. Relax into the belly. Speak lower. Speak towards the ground. And I just did that a few times. And again, it's like you probably know that too. You've probably imagined yourself delivering certain speeches or having certain conversations. Often when we do that, we imagine the worst case scenario, things often going wrong. But you don't have to. Yeah, that's just like a fear-based kind of imaginal practice, that you could actually do things more consciously and imagine it going well, or at least, if things become difficult, what you're going to do. So there's this whole kind of prep, that I did for it. There was just drawing on other skill sets from meditation, public speaking, time as a Buddhist, time being around other people who are in stressful situations, all of that. I just kind of brought all of that into the situation. And then the other thing that we did that was helpful was that we'd agreed with the funeral director that he would step in and be my backup if needed. I was pretty convinced that I wasn't going to need that, but you just never know, do you? Yeah, you just never know how you're going to be in the moment. And sometimes we just freeze and we choke up a bit, or we get stuck. Now, that didn't happen to me during the funeral. It was like an not out of body experience. It was like, because it was like I was like so fully in my body. But anyway, it was kind of surreal. I was so present, like so present. But actually, a couple of months later, I was still delivering like a workshop, which just went not really badly, but it was not my best thing at all. Because I just got a bit stuck and a bit frozen in it. I think because there was a lot of grief coming out over those few days. So yeah, you don't ever know quite what's going to go wrong. And for something that high stakes, where you really need to, like, you have to deliver. Yeah, you absolutely have to deliver, or someone's got to deliver. Then, of course, again, like as a leader, you'd probably have a backup. Yeah, you never know, do you, if you're going to something that's really, really important, whether or not you're going to be ill or whatever. And if it's that important, you'll have planned in advance to have someone else who could step in, or at least you'd know who that would be. And what all that also meant was that everyone around me could relax a little bit more as well, because I think for a few people it was important to know that, yeah, if I got choked up a bit or something really couldn't go on, that someone else would step in, because it wasn't just it wasn't like Ari and Nisha's day, it was everyone else's. It was for everyone else as well. And so that was a bit on a few people's minds. Like, they were fully in support of me, but they just wanted to make sure that I had what I needed. And that, yeah, having like a backup was really helpful, just to kind of relax. The third thing I did, which I think made a massive difference, is that I didn't try to deliver the speech from memory. In other situations, like I might just be, or like now, like I'm just talking off the cuff. In others, like I might have like the speech, and then like I've got like a little guide for this. Like, it's like you write the whole thing out, so you know kind of what you want to say. But then you kind of break it down into sections and like bullet points, so you get this kind of like skeleton that you can use as notes to work your way through if you find you're going over, or waffle on in a different direction, you take a tangent. It's very easy to adjust that structure, so you just remove some things. Like, that was not going to be a sensible thing to do. Like, there are some situations in which you just need to read the thing. But I'd had some training like years ago now, when I was volunteering in India, about like reading a line and then speaking it to people. I'm not quite sure if I did do that during the day, but it wasn't just like I looked down and just read it. I was like making eye contact and staying connected with the audience. So that was the third thing. That was very helpful. Again, just took the pressure off. If I was going to stumble or get lost, I could just come back to the speech, just really reducing the amount of pressure. I did those nights that I was imagining leading the funeral. I just imagined all this love coming at me from everyone there. So love, and like love and kindness, like metta in Buddhist terms, it was like such a feature for me during this period. Like, I remember when I was with one family member, and like it was hurting so much. This was before my dad died. And it just dawned on me, I was like, oh, this is what love feels like. This is what love feels like. So then when I was imagining being at that funeral and it being so intense, it's like, oh, this is what love feels like. And also everyone there was just going to be so for me. Like what other situation could you be in? Maybe there's a few others like this, but like, what other situation could you be in where people could be like so like for you and for you doing this well, and have so much love pouring like towards you? It's like when someone's dying or has died at a funeral, it's like, I think sometimes why it's so painful, it's not just the loss, but it's like, oh god, I'm going I'm refusing to edit this video, I'm deciding to do it in one take. It's like the love, I can feel it now. It's like the love that comes at you or through you or from you during this experience, it is so big and limitless that like you just couldn't, it's just hard to hold. So that was part of what I was holding, like, and learning to hold in those few days in the run up was like, God, I'm gonna have runny nose. It's like being able to kind of be with so much love, because you can see it, can't you, in my body now? It's like my throat's contracted. That's not like, this isn't the sadness, this is awe. This is this little human heart and mind and body trying to like hold something so pure and massive and existential. Of course I'm going to well up. So yeah, that was part of it, was not just learning to kind of sit with like the horror of the situation, because it wasn't really about that during those days. If you've had someone die or gone through like a health crisis or something, it's almost like these two things live like simultaneously. It's like, because you're able to access the pain, like if you're able to access the pain, because you can just cough, and I have numbed out at times, but if you're able to access it and see the love in it, it's just like vast. It blows your little mind and heart. So anyway, I was really allowing a lot of that love in. And it helped that I'd written the eulogy by going out to friends and family and asking them to send in like their memories of dad, photos of him, like rejoicings in him, and then I used that to write his eulogy. So I did like a little bit on his timeline, but mostly actually I talked about like themes and the qualities of his that people had rejoiced in his life. Got myself a bit lost there. Anyway, so talking about love, so that was another thing. Are we on 4 things, 5 things? So I had all that loving, and oh my god, I looked horrendous the last like couple of days. I was getting so ill. I was basically getting tonsillitis, which I think was maybe I'd picked up something in at some point during the process, but I think also it's like kind of like psychosomatic, something to do with my throat. And which I'll go into another time what I think that was about. But I was like puffy, like I might post like a photo of this below if you haven't seen it before, but like my eyes were puffy, like I was just like my whole face like swelled up really badly, and I was, you know, not so much from crying, but just this like anyway, yeah, my face was puffed up, my eye was super puffy. It was like I'd had like some sort of allergic reaction or something to grief. And I remember my partner Virinaga saying at the time, he's like, look, people aren't expecting you to look great, you know, they're like, your dad's died, you're going to look like your dad's died. And that was really helpful. Again, it was just sort of reminding myself of like, I'm not there to look pretty, like I'm there to kind of like help facilitate this like deeply profound experience that we're all going through, that's also like really hard and shocking because he'd only had 6 months between diagnosis and then dying. So that was really useful, like remembering like what was really important. Oh, I'm just going to say there's this little robin that's just turned up, and I'm not sure what I think about like signs, but anyway, robins are definitely a sign of my family. My granddad was called Robin, everyone called him Bob, and yeah, there's one that keeps hanging out around here at the moment, often when I'm thinking about stuff about this actually, or maybe that's just when I look out the window and notice him. Anyway, if that's you, Dad, hello. Might do another thing on signs at some point, and our loved ones talking to us from beyond, if that's something that you believe in or think might be possible. Maybe I can just finish on one more thing, because that's my battery coming up low and I haven't got my charger with me. What else helped? I sort of tapped on it, didn't I? But I think there's this thing about not wanting to, well, I'm going to meander around a few things now. I didn't want to live with the regret of not having done it. It felt like such a significant act of service for my dad to do that. I don't know if I thought of this at the time, but since I've definitely been aware that if I could do that, then I can do anything. Yeah, there was just this sense, like sort of profound sense of like, oh, it was just like the obvious thing to do. It was like really, really the obvious thing to do. Got a nice dress, like, you know, I wasn't there to look pretty for people, but like I think if you feel confident in what you're wearing, that's great. Got this lovely dress offline. It's like black with like flowers on it. Oh no, music! Oh my gosh, I can't believe I haven't said this because I've shared it in other posts. So I was listening for like maybe like the few weeks, because it was like a month between when he died and when we had his funeral, and I was listening to Max Richter's version of Vivaldi Spring 1 non-stop, and I had it in an earbud when I was in the limo behind the hearse with his coffin in, and I had that on and I was just listening to it constantly, and I think it just had such a, I keep wanting to say the word profound, but it was really profound. It had such a sense of like hope in it and like joy, and like if you listen to it, right, please go and play it like immediately. It's a brilliant piece of music. Like it bursts, like the song just like bursts in, like the sound of, it's not actually birds, but anyway, this feeling of like birds just like bursts in, and it's so full and like complete, and like I had this real sense of like that being my dad's life, him just kind of like bursting into life, and having this full life, and then right at the end it just stops, it like it kind of just goes, and again I had that sense of like, oh, that being his death, as well as like there was this full glorious, intangible, ungraspable experience of his life expressed in this music. And then this like, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what happens. Like, we can't quite see it, can we? That life is so rich. Oh, going again. I haven't talked about this so fully for a while. I think it's all like stirring everything up again in such a positive way. But like, yeah, if you want to know what it felt like to lead his funeral, go and listen to that piece of music a few times. And I do have this thing with grief where I think sometimes you need to complement the emotion in terms of the music you're listening to, so that you can kind of, like listen to some sad songs and access the grief and help it move through and be with that bit of you that feels shit and lonely and desolate and all that. Yeah, like you're in this kind of barren wasteland. And there's time for music that really contrasts with some of that experience to bring forth or help you access some of these other aspects of grief. So it's not about pretending you're not feeling that, but it's like, and then you're just like happy, like Instagram influencer, happy, whatever. It's like there is, as I've been explaining today, there's this whole other landscape of emotion possible through grief, not despite it, but through grief. And that's what that music helped me to access, was this whole other world, which I'd never known was possible because I hadn't been through something so utterly wretched and like horrendous, like I thought, like I consider myself to be a reasonably emotionally intelligent person. He's quite versed with my emotional experience and different ranges of human experience and suffering, but I just realized I knew nothing about this world. It was like joining a separate club. So there you go. There's some stuff around why I think it's possible to lead the funeral of a loved one, the kind of skills and experiences that you can draw on that you already have in your life as a leader to do it. I hope part of what I got to in the end was sort of like pointing to why, like what's possible in doing it, and maybe giving you some inspiration to consider doing it yourself. And if you want to, if you're considering it, please do reach out. I'm really, really happy to kind of like share anything I can really about the process of things that helped me, from regulating my nervous system to writing the eulogy, all of that, how to be with people afterwards in the pub. Really, really happy to help you. Just comment below or get in touch.